Greetings. Welcome to the DragonCon Urban Fantasy Track last installment in our Lost Girl Revisited series. We are, it's with mixed feelings. We're at the end that I'm sure my panelists are kind of like, oh, good. Now I don't have to worry about it. No, okay, good. Sarah Rose is like, no. But at the same time, it's always sad that we, have gotten to the point where we're done for this year. But we will be back with covering a different show next year, and we'll see what that will be. I have not really thrown out a few ideas yet, so at that point, we'll be back at it again. But that will be after DragonCon. So the first thing we're going to do this evening is have each one of my wonderful panelists introduce themselves. And Jessica, we will start with you.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Jessica Cage. I am a fantasy author writing stories of fantasy with strong characters of color. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin.
Hello, everyone. I am Carol's second in command, so to speak, at the Urban Fantasy Track, and a longtime DragonCon attendee, big Lost Girl fan. The great honor of being on every Lost Girl fan panel at DragonCon so far. Looking forward to talking final season tonight.
Marks.
Hey, I'm Mark Spile. I'm a filmmaker, podcaster, and writer. Write urban fantasy and sci-fi. Love everything urban fantasy, including Lost Girl. So excited. This is the first time I've seen season 5, so it was interesting.
By that, I'm sure you mean you'll have lots of things to say.
Yes.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rose. I am all-around geek nerd. I have no credits compared to my wonderful other panelists, but I love all things sci-fi, all things urban fantasy in general. I love theater. You'll find me all around DragonCon.
Everywhere. And our new member tonight, Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Seaton Pyle, and I am co-host of the podcast Genretainment. I've done some writing and I've done some acting, and I am an all-around geek. So,
well, you are definitely well qualified to be part with this group. Then, definitely, that is a. Now we will begin tonight's discussion with the same question that I always ask, and that kind of gets us started and gets us going in the directions that I would like us to go in. And of course, that would be, did you have a favorite episode from this particular season? And was there one that you really didn't care for, that you just kind of wish hadn't been there? So, Jessica?
I am going to say one that when I first watched season 5 was not my favorite, but like the more I watch it, the more I love it. Sweet Valkyrie High.
Oh,
seeing Tamsin, like her history and like all of the Valkyrie, like that, the more I see it, the more I love it, especially knowing how the season ends. It was just like, okay, this was necessary. I love it more and more every time I watch it. And the least favorite would have to be a combination of the last like 2 or 3 episodes. I just felt like things were happening too quickly, and I wanted it to just stretch, just throw like 2 or 3 more episodes and stretch it out. But overall, I really love the season. Like I have the entire series, but yeah, I think the more I watch it, Sweet Valkyrie High it takes a special place in my heart.
okay. Kevin?
For me, I agree. Sweet Valkyrie High is certainly very high on my list for this season's episodes. But rather than a episode, I'm going to pick a moment, which won't surprise anyone who knows me or has listened to any of the previous Lost Girl discussions we had, and that would be the opening episode at the 16-minute and 17-second moment when we see Kenzie is back and alive. and going to be in this season. For those keeping score at home, it was 295 days between the season 4 finale and the season 5 premiere that we had to wonder what was going to happen to Kenzie. So I will go with a moment instead of an entire episode for my fave.
Okay. Yeah, and of course, I kind of doubt that there were that many of us that were counting, but I know you. I remember that you were, yes, and that was a good moment though, because at the time, you're wondering, is she going to go in that room and what is she going to find? And lo and behold, Marks. What about you?
It was hard to pick a specific episode. I guess I kind of like what they were trying to do with episode 14, Follow the Yellow Trick Road. I love seeing the actor who plays Dyson play against type all the time. So it was great as a cowardly wolf.
Yeah.
And I like the visual with the black and white and the red color and stuff. But also just like Kevin's, basically every scene Kenzie's in throughout the whole season was my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Got some big Kenzie fans, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it was such a brutal episode, Family Portrait. There's so much stuff going on there. It was a rough episode to watch. So
yeah, okay, I'll buy that. It was pretty shocking too, just the way that whole tableau was set up, and yeah, that was it. Sarah Rose.
So favorite episode, I'm gonna have to go with Sweet Valkyrie High as well. I mean, it was a really cute episode. I really liked Tamsin, so I liked seeing Tamsin kind of, you know, a little bit more about her and about her backstory and her character. I've got two kind of even though I love the title, I'm gonna be honest, 44 Minutes to Save the World was not my favorite. Not a big Z person, which I know we'll get into. It kind of not my favorite. And even though I love the concept, Follow the Yellow Trick Road was actually one of my least favorite ones because it it seemed like they wanted to do so much more, and it just a lot of the time just didn't make a whole lot of sense, in my opinion. Like the Lauren character, it, it just, yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Okay. And Julie.
I had a hard time coming up with a favorite episode. I would say that all the Kenzie moments were like my favorite moments. I did love Dyson whenever he was the cowardly lion.
Yeah.
Marks and I we love whenever he plays, like when he played Kenzie before, when they switched bodies, like I love watching that actor kind of stretch his chops. And I also loved on Clear Eyes, Faye Hearts. I loved seeing them infiltrate the cheerleaders. Like,
yeah.
Especially Tamsin, just
confronting
the mean
That was
girl.
a cute episode, yeah.
That was a good episode, and that was a really great moment, So yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny to think of when you think of the characters on the show, to imagine Tamsin as a cheerleader just doesn't quite, that doesn't
jive. Yeah.
Yeah. And, typically I don't answer my own questions, but tonight I will say that I think probably my favorite episode was the Follow the Yellow Trick Road. And I from this season. And aside from, of course, everything with Kenzie is the best. It was, I think that the show, we missed her, let's put it that way. But in any case, I thought, I'm a sucker for anything that does any Wizard of Oz parallels. And I thought, counter to what you thought, Sarah Rose, I really thought they did a good job with all of that. But and to go back to the cowardly wolf / lion Dyson, that was hilarious when both
Dyson's
Susan and
character
Izzy-
really did do a good
Yeah.
job. Like, I
Yeah.
think for me, it was just like some of the characters, like, it wasn't like the parallels weren't there for me. And
Just
I'm a big
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz buff.
Who's this
Like,
Dyson?
like
Is that a vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said
that was a really good line.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was perfect. I was like, oh my gosh. And I had not seen that episode in years. So I had forgotten about that line. So I was enjoying it.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of moments where Brooks and I loved, it was very brief, but the very end, I think it might have been the last episode where Bruce showed up.
Oh yeah,
And
out of the
you say-
wall.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that guy, and I just wish that they'd had him in it more this season. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was good that he turned up and
Everybody loves
ended
Bruce.
up-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of saved the day because he gave them a way out.
Mhm.
Now, was there a character that you felt differently about by the end of the series than you did when things first began? Did anybody change in your estimation, whether for good or ill? And Kevin, it's your turn to go first this time.
Gee, I'm trying to see if there's a way I can spin this into Kenzie, but I think that would be overkill, so I won't go there. No, I mean, because of the way certainly the character was written, I'd say Vex. I mean, we went from a villain, a foil, to someone who became part of the Scooby Gang. So certainly there was, and this season, he got a chance to really be more of that. Certainly, so that was good to see. I mean, also maybe on a secondary nature, Dyson's son, who kind of went from I don't want this person on screen to okay, all right, it's a typical teenage character type, but I think the actor did a good job kind of coming a lot further along, so that was good to see.
Yeah, it was when I was looking back through my notes. I had made an aside to myself that Mark is acting like a jerk anyway in some episode, but that was early on. But yeah, okay, Mark's.
Well, Kevin took both of my opinions. I was like, okay, I got back up. Oh, no.
Sorry, Mark.
No, it's okay. Just to add on to that, because I really can't think of another one off the top of my head. I do think they always played around with Vex being part of the group, or they have more
Right.
recently. I think they more successfully did it this season and really fulfilled that goal. And I still love Mark, but I liked Mark better by the end of it, and especially I think I just like the scenes with him and Dyson and stuff. It gives it another layer, a different aspect of Dyson we haven't seen, is him trying to be the father and stuff. And also, he encouraged him to step up and be a leader too, which was good.
Right. Okay, Sarah Rose.
Well, I'm not burning my team anyone but Lauren shirt.
Yeah.
But I will say Lauren did grow on me towards the end of the series. Okay.
Like a fungus. No,
Yeah, exactly right.
She never grew on me.
Lauren,
Ever.
I guess maybe because they she stopped being I'm trying to think of a word that isn't mean. She stopped being so much of a gimme with Bo, and so advantageous towards Lauren, because I always felt like it was really one-sided as far as Lauren went. Like, she only wanted Bo because it was good for her. She finally, this season especially, we kind of got to see her do a little bit more doctory stuff and stuff like that. I mean, I still, the whole Endgame Lauren thing still does not make sense to me.
No.
But the fact that I guess she got to be a little bit more caring like legitimately caring about people is why she grew on me. And Kevin, you also stole mine because mine was going to be Vex.
The benefit of going first at the question.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, Julie.
Well, I'm last, so everyone took all of them. So
Well,
I'm
you're
gonna
not
have
No,
last.
to
no,
go.
we are second to
Oh,
last.
that's right, second to last. I'm gonna have to go with Vex because he started out as someone I loved to hate. Like I liked the character, but like you just it's
Right,
like
he
a
did
good
despicable
villain.
things,
You know,
yeah.
you love to hate the villain, you know, and that means they're doing a great job. And he grew on me into it took a while for him to grow on me. He last season he still hadn't quite grown on me just yet, but the final season he seemed to have. And I really liked him. I was happy when they ended up not killing him off, you know.
Right,
You know.
right.
Yeah.
Jack did a poor job slitting his throat.
Yeah, the front won't do it. You got to go onto the sides.
That's right. He just was in a hurry, I guess.
I guess.
Jessica.
Okay, first, I am shocked because I've loved Vex from the beginning. Like, I don't understand why everyone was struggling with Vex. I'm like, what? I love him.
Love
Honestly,
to hate.
no,
Yeah.
I loved him to love him. Like, I have always, I've never hated him. I don't know. But his character just, I don't know, it spoke to the inner villain, I guess. For me, it would be Tamsin and the Morrigan. I did not like Tamsin's character at first. But again, through her time on the show, I grew to love her. And then, of course, with the Valkyrie, with Sweet Valkyrie High being my favorite, I'm like, that really solidified. Like, okay, this is a character that feels like she belongs here now. And then the Morrigan, like I said before, like seeing her character soften and learning that she was a mother and she was heartbroken, and it just made her more human to me. Mm-hmm. And then they made her human.
Literally, yeah.
The arc of her character. Yeah, I was like, she was just misunderstood. That's all, she's in a tough position, power, whatever. But yeah, I really wanted to be able to say it was Lauren. I did, but still can't stand her.
Yeah.
At all.
I'm
still
with
don't
you.
like Lauren.
I was hoping she would redeem herself, and I was like,
amen.
Still don't like you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Great actress, because I hate that character.
Well, I meant to add this in before when we were on our last question, but one of our viewers tonight is Lolita, and she says that we were talking about the show, feeling, or somebody had brought it up about feeling as though it was a bit rushed at the end. And yeah, I think they probably tried to wrap up some things. I don't know, or maybe they wanted to at that point they knew that the show was going to be ending, so they may have been trying to put in some things that they would have done in another season too. I mean, so I don't know, but she was in agreement with that, the sentiment of whoever had brought that up.
It kind of seems like, at least to me, like this season, you can kind of see when the end game focus shifted, like where they all of a sudden wanted to wrap up these storylines, like bringing back Kenzie, even though she was in non-Kenzie type styling and stuff like that. That really felt like when they started to make the episode, make the endgame episodes, and when everything seemed very rushed to me.
It
Was
just also
basically
a little
from when
convoluted.
he came back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this season was already airing when they found out that they weren't going to be able to come back. So at that point, it's like, but they tacked on a few extra episodes. So that explains how they were able to do it.
And we got Bruce back out of it. So,
Yeah.
And Lolita agrees that it was a shift we felt. What were you going to say, Kevin?
Well, and also for those who weren't watching when it was airing live, they they showed the first 8 episodes, and then we had like a 9-month break before they showed the final 8 episodes. And in some places they billed it as season 6, even though it really wasn't. So there's also a little bit of the, oops, we're going to cancel you, but we'll give you a couple episodes. And then the writers already had a bunch of stuff in place and had to kind of pivot. So it's like happens to some shows sometimes. It's
At
certainly
least
not.
they got an
big art.
ending.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it's better than
so
being
you
left
don't
with a bunch of
complain. Yeah, when
questions.
you at least get that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, if you think back over this, the last few episodes of this season, which character's ending did you most enjoy, and which one did you not? The ending the end story for that character, or where their story ended up. And Marks, you get to go first.
Oh, I guess. I mean, I liked. It's kind of a weird way to answer it, but I liked how I didn't like that Tamsin died, but I liked how her kid became the new, generation, and how they tied that all in at the end with the beginning of the show in many ways. The whole like you will not grow up a lost girl and everything.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of this new character they introduced. That's Tamsin's child and such. They kind of hinted to that a little bit, like whenever she was dying, she's like, I know I'm gonna die, I have no legacy, da da da. And then whenever she had her child, she's like, I have my legacy and stuff. So so that was touching. What I didn't, and what end I didn't like the boat ended up with Lauren.
No, don't take. You took both of mine, babe.
Oh, sorry. I'll just end it there. You can deep dive into it.
Keep going, sweetie. Keep going.
She's still got.
I'm sure you also stole Jessica's, so I'm just gonna be honest.
No.
Well, okay, Sarah Rose, what about you?
I really didn't like how they left the Morgan at the end. Like I liked how we were seeing her, and we were seeing her more, and like her developing as a character, and then she was like, yeah, I'm doing all this fundraising, and then poof.
Yeah.
Like we never saw her again. Like there was no like conclusion to that. Like, did she live? Did she die? Did she become Fae again? Like, never found out.
That's a good point.
Like that was probably my least favorite story, like character story that how it ended. So because it didn't.
Well, did you have one that you did like?
I mean, I'm gonna go with Marks here and agree with Tamlin. Tamlin, the first season, first time I watched it, I would have to say Kenzie was my favorite character. But while doing this watch through, Tamlin has rapidly become my favorite character. Okay, and I liked Tamlin a lot when I was originally watching it. But Tamlin, I liked that she did have a legacy at the end. Now the Jack thing, that is some like how she got her baby. I could have
A little
left
dark,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I could have left that. But I do like
but
that
very
she
Greek mythology, that's for sure.
It is very
Yeah.
Greek mythology, yes. But I would have to say like Tamlin's story, like seeing her rise and stuff like that. That's where and like have like that redeeming part of her story. That had to be my favorite one.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie.
I agree with. I actually was okay with Tamsin dying.
I said Tamlin, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's been a long
That's
day.
okay. I was okay with her dying because I felt like that was like they'd been building to that. This was her last life,
Right.
and she needed a legacy, and so she had the child, and then they showed at the end, her spirit rising, and everything, and I thought it was very touching. So I wasn't okay with most of the other deaths, but I really was okay with hers because I felt like it wrapped up her storyline in the only way it really could have. And then my least favorite was Bo and Lauren being together, because I felt like they retconned. Originally, Bo and Dyson had this great love story, and the only reason they couldn't be together was because he gave up his ability to love to save her life and this and that. And she only was with Lauren after that because she couldn't be with Dyson, and I feel like they retconned that great love story because they wanted to make it more trendy, I guess, because a girl with a girl is a little bit more trendy now. And it just bugged me that they retconned that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, they didn't for
and I don't like Lauren. I just don't like her.
We have a new team member.
Yay!
Yay.
One of us.
Somebody moved to the club. That's right. There are about 4 of them on this panel that have a club. Jessica.
Okay, so my favorite ending was for Dyson. He was just he was so peaceful in the end, and I feel like Dyson had like all of this, like not dirty, but like terrible history, and like his friend died, the friend girl came back, she died, he lost his love. Like he was going through so much. He went on that journey to come back to think he was the one, and it was like, nah, not really. Like it was a lot for Dyson throughout the series. So I just loved how at peace he was. And I was okay, even though I don't like Lauren, y'all know that, but I was okay with her being with Bo because like Bo did bang his son, so I feel like they need a little time for that to like not be
a moment for me in the season. I'm gonna be honest, like that was a big ick moment.
Well, but they've already established. They already established that when Bo was with Lauren before, she had to have sex with other people because she couldn't survive off of just feeding off of a human. So I don't see how that's going to work with Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have the issues. I don't think it's going to last forever.
With it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to last forever. But I mean, obviously, also Lauren is human. So, and they kind of hinted at that earlier when they was like, well, she's not going to live forever anyway. We're going to be around for a while. So I feel like that gives that whole like I slept with your son thing some time to like not be an issue, and then they can be together.
Well, hopefully, guys, never found out.
I like how you.
Yeah, I don't think he ever found out, did he? Yeah.
And they can reincarnate Tamslin and have her with Bo. How about that?
I like how you think, Jessica. Just give it time; they'll eventually.
Yeah.
Dice is playing the long game here.
The storyline they could have cut was that, in my opinion, the mark in both things.
For the ending that I didn't like as much, Sarah, you took mine for the Morgan, because I've been the Morgan has been here for me like for a while. And it was just like, oh, she's doing all this character growth, and we're going to see her either become a good person or go back to being a Fae, but maybe be a little less of a itch in the end. And then it was just like, where did she go? Like, I thought maybe she would show up and help fight. I don't know. Like, she'll come up with some secret weapon she had, another case with a monster that I don't know. I just expected something with her character, and then she was just gone. And I was like, well, can she just be hanging out at the bar in the last scene? Like, oh, she's one of us. Like,
I actually watched to see if she was in the background when I watched it, the ending scene, because I thought, well, maybe she'll be there, like just like hanging out. And
yeah, it felt really odd, just as a fan of the show in general. Like, I know you have to do this quick wrap up, but it just felt really odd for her to be so integral through the entire series and then just not be there in the end. It really left me feeling like, okay, well, what about her? But y'all know I have a love for the bad guys anyway, so yeah.
Well, and I mean, they brought back Bruce. Why not bring back the Morgan?
Yeah.
Ebony needed love too.
All right, Kevin, what you got?
Well, as far as ending bits that I liked, I would say it was really nice seeing almost everyone back at the doll at the end. So we had that consistency, and they had that, kind of as a home base, especially where the crack shack went up in flames. So it was good, to have, I really like that aspect of it. I still had that as home. That was good to see. Selfishly, I wish Kenzie still was hanging around with Bo. Somehow after going away and maybe coming back, she might have realized how special their relationship was and still wanting to be there. So that was selfish Kevin hoping for that. But her taking care of, Tamsin's daughter made plot sense, if maybe it wasn't there for that. And I always felt bad for Trick's ending. So that's
I
not a fan of that.
know.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not happy about them killing him
Yeah.
off at all.
And just kind of in that, not just killing off, because we all know, you got to have some jeopardy for characters near the end of a show, but I don't know, it just seemed like for a guy who was the Blood King and was the core of a lot of key stuff, it was a little
Supposedly
too
this
easy.
great and powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
get.
It was an ordinary ending for an extraordinary character.
Very well said, Julie. Thank you. Yes, much better than I said, but yes, that's it right there.
Now,
Can I add on to that? Sorry, but
Okay.
it felt like he wanted an ordinary ending. Like ultimately, he just really wanted to be like with his wife, live his life, and that. Like that was like his whole motivation. Like so, if as much as it sucked, like him like kind of dying with his family, it was kind of that was an ugly thing to see. But it felt right for his ending. Like if that makes sense to me. Like I didn't want him to die, but I was like, okay, that makes sense for him to go the way he did.
I think what made it rougher for me in the season is that he didn't do very much that whole season.
No.
Mhm.
And usually when you kill a major character off, it helps if you have them do some stuff. And not only it was emotional, he punches a little harder, but then you feel like you've seen more of him. Like Hale was more front before he died. And I think that's why I kind of felt like, oh man, really could have done a little bit more. And all these secrets are coming out, but after he died, it would be nice to see that come up.
The only thing I will say is I do like how they gave like him a little bit more, like they wrapped him back into Aoife and like protecting his daughter and stuff like that. And so that part of his death I like, that it showed this person that basically he didn't like throughout the season. It's said was evil and yada yada yada, and in the end he died trying to protect her. He failed, but that was how he went out. So I
I
think
wanted to see
that
some
is a
some
bit-
staff action.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would have liked to see a little bit more. That is one of those story points that from the season just felt like we need to get this in versus like we want to show this because they found out it's the end and they're trying to tick all the boxes. That's what it felt like. So
Yeah.
well, before we go on to the next question, I wanted to let you guys know that you have one more person. in your-
Yes, we're
in your-
growing.
we need to have T-shirts made. Come on, we can do a photo shoot, like reserve the Hilton steps or something. Like,
I like it. Yep. We all have shirts lower and crossed out, and we're just all in a big group.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned this before, Sarah Rose, but what was your reaction to impression of how did you like this season's villains / antagonists? And I chose the second word because some who start out as villains didn't. Well, there was one who started out as a villain that became more of an antagonist, but I digress. Anyway, Sarah Rose, you get to go first. What did you think of them?
okay, so I guess we're talking about my comment for Z. At the beginning, I liked Z story. Okay, I'm a big mythology person. I do like mythology a lot. But towards like it felt like again it was just like one of those like we got to get rid of her things, because like they built it up from the very beginning of the thing. We see the elevator fall, and then she comes back alive, and we're wondering who this is, and we finally find out who Z is. And like they do the whole like ceremony with the dagger thing and stuff like that, and then it just kind of went flat for me. And so that's part of the reason that I didn't really like Z. um Jack was more I liked the story, um just being from my personal experience with my life. who has daddy issues. I totally related with Bo's story with him. So in that way, like, I think they did a really good job of, like, not making him bad all the time. He made you question. So is he actually bad? Is he not? Like, in that aspect, I did like Jack's stuff. It was just when it came to Tamsin's story, the baby, that's really the only ick moment I had with Jack.
Yeah.
And I know, like, it's very mythology based and yada yada yada, but it for Jack as the individual character, it didn't seem like super on brand for him to do that. I could see him like trying to seduce her, and that might have been a little bit more on Jack brand. But
Yeah.
other than that, like I kind of enjoyed Jack's. Z's just at the end fell flat to me. I really just I wanted them to end that storyline. I thought they could have ended that storyline with the end of Nyx, and it continued. And I
Yeah.
think that was where one
It
of
just
my
went on a
problems
little
was.
long.
Yeah.
Okay. Julie.
I like with again, I agree with Sarah Rose on the ick factor. It was just a little rapey with the whole getting Tamsin pregnant. But other than that, I really enjoyed watching Jack / Hades. That actor Eric Roberts, I thought just knocked it out of the park. And he did a wonderful job. I like that actor. I've seen him in other things. I'm drawing a blank right now, but I know I've seen him in other things and really liked him. So I enjoyed watching that. I felt like with the Greek gods, it was just a little convoluted, went on a little longer than it needed to, and I think that's part of why the ending of the series felt so rushed, because they spent a little too much time and an extra episode or two on the Greek gods when they could have been dealing with the end game.
I agree.
Okay. Jessica.
I mean, I like only want to talk about Hades / Jack because I'll always forget that Z was technically like the original villain of this series of the season. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Like whenever I rewatch the season, I'm like, right, you're the first one that we're supposed to like hate in this. She just like you said, she fell flat to me. Like it was just, I get it. Like, oh, I don't want him to come back. But once he came back, it was like, why are we still talking to this girl? Like, why is she still a thing? And I feel like the reason it feels that way is because they probably had a whole nother plan for how that, storyline was going to end. And then they hear, oh, we're actually ending the series. So, we have to take into account the rush that they had to like probably cut a lot of stuff that maybe would have made that story worth watching, I guess. But if I'm thinking of a villain that I love to hate, it's Hades, it's Jax, because the whole time is like you said, Sarah Rose, like you're like, do I like him? Maybe not. I know he's a bad guy, but he's kind of funny. Like I'm going back and forth. And then what he did to Tamsin is like, oh, I don't like this guy. Like I feel like that was them like punching it, like, do not like him. He's a bad guy type of vibe. I wish they could have found another way to do that. I feel like the whole killing of, the family was enough, but
I agree.
That would improve that. Yeah.
That
On some
would've
shows,
cemented
but
it's like if you still even think you might like him, now you really know that you don't like him. But I loved him. I feel like as a villain, and like you said, Julie, like him in other films, and he's always like just such a phenomenal actor. So like as a villain, I was just like, this is what villains should be. Like the way I felt for him was like, I can't stand you. But Z is she's forgettable. I still like, even now, I'm like, I know she was there. I hear the name. I know who you're talking about, but like, there's no lasting impact from her character for me.
Okay. Kevin.
As folks have mentioned so far, I mean, the idea of going with the Greek gods and all, made some sense. Certainly in this show, the actors who played these different characters we're all mentioning, I thought were fantastic. But I just felt, especially to looking at it in total, there was just way too much standing around and talking. there's a lot of time spent, Bo and Jack, and even Z at times with Bo, and you know, a lot of times I'm just watching the episodes going, okay, get to the point. I mean, where are we going with this? So, you know, it just didn't quite work as well as I might have hoped, knowing what the concept was coming in. And as you pointed out, Jessica, it could have been for all those reasons of, you know, storylines having to shift and to change where they had to go when they weren't planning to. So it's not a knock on the writing, but yeah, the magic didn't happen there. It was a bit, you know, many other shows we've seen with epic finales or big bads in the last season. This one doesn't quite measure up, at least in my mind, to what I might have hoped. So it was just kind of okay for me that way.
Okay. Marks.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the slow reveal about the ancients and stuff at first, and then the gender swap between Zeus and Hera was interesting.
Yeah, that was good.
Z, what I did like, for bonus points to the actress, Z is kind of, she reminds me, if you watch Buffy, like Lori a little bit. And then that episode where she swaps out bodies and then Beth is in control, I was like, oh, now you're kind of almost like a Felicia Day personality. It's so dramatically different personality. She did a great job doing that. So that made it a more memorable thing with the vessel, you know, switching back and forth. But she was a little bit forgettable, like you said. It drew out a bit. I looked at the story. We've got 16 episodes, and except for 3 and 4, I think the A storyline is either the Ancients or Hades during the whole thing, and that's a lot of episodes for it to be the A storyline. And those other 2, I think the B storyline is the mystery of the Ancients. They keep that thread going with the elevator deaths and stuff, and that's a lot of time on those bad guys, and they're so powerful. It's a lot of time to drag it out. Where you're like, oh, we're gonna talk a little bit because I can't fight you, you know. So it's a tough challenge. But Hades was, especially that actor, like Julie said, I really like that actor. He gave a great kind of nuanced performance to it, where you're just kind of like, well, he's so charismatic. Is he really a bad guy? I don't know. Maybe we don't know the whole picture. I don't know, you know. And such a good manipulator. And then whenever he reveals his true self, it's like Red Wedding level true self.
By the end, he's Joffrey.
Pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, but you know, and I think maybe another part of it too, and this is probably because it was rushed in the end. I do feel like they cheated a little bit on beating the big bads, right? Because like I noted on my notes, I was like question mark, exclamation mark, and stuff. Whenever like Z and Hera were like, well, we're gonna kill you first before we go to Myth, and then they're just like, never mind, let's go Myth and leave. And I'm like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
and then when Bo beats Jack, I mean, I kind of get what she did, but I really didn't quite understand exactly what she did.
No.
Like, did she burn a few souls to basically take him out, or not? And I'm not really exactly sure what she did.
Well, she was giving him love, was like, it seemed like the dialogue. That's what it suggested. So did she give some of her own life essence? Because her thing is like, unlike Jack, she cares, and so she's streaming her life essence into him. That's kind of how I took it. To be honest, though, I think they were just looking for a reason to do Red Chi. I mean, it wouldn't have this
well, if it's love, it should have been a rainbow.
Yeah.
It was a therapist thing, like with the flames.
I think that was the idea. And I think that, you know, one of the things she said was that you know, I'm both good and evil, you know, that I have, you know, Trick's blood too, which he reminded her of and didn't want her to forget. And so she, when she's putting some of her essence into him, he's being bombarded with good, which he didn't have any of in him. And yes, you know, even though and the reason I say that is that the good things that he did were always for his own, you know, for his own purposes. He saved Mark so that he had one more person, or to ingratiate himself with them, and so that he had one more person carrying his mark. And I mean, there are a number of reasons that he could have done, there are a number of things that he did that were kind of that way.
And I noticed, like, when she said about, the Blood King's blood is my blood, like, it looked like her veins were starting to pop or something in her arm. They were doing some kind of effect there. So I'm just kind of curious because I didn't quite understand. I didn't quite understand.
That part.
Now, what now?
Yeah. Well, like, if you look at her arm, she puts her hand up against his hand and there's this energy thing. And, like, you kind of see like veins or red marks coming down her arm, and she was talking about the Blood King's blood. So I was like, is she tapping into that to help? I don't know. I kind of wish they kind of threw a little explanation line in there a little bit or something.
The way
I remember
I saw that was that Trick uses blood to rewrite and to do that. I always saw it as like Bo using chi. Like that's the way I saw the ending, was like, yeah, she's using love or whatever, but with the power of what Trick can do, having that passed down to her, she's using chi to kind of rewrite or overwrite what Hades was trying to do.
Oh,
you know what I mean? That's the way
that.
like that's the way I interpret it. Like they're not directly her blood, but like his ability, so to speak.
Okay.
I just thought it was just too easy. He was this really impossible to beat villain. I mean, even Trick couldn't go up against him. Nobody could defeat him. And then she just kind of held up her hand for a minute or two, and like suddenly he was defeated, and it just it didn't work for me.
Well, normally they wouldn't. I don't think it would have been able to, but the fact that she had, pretty much sucked the whole town or the whole city, then,
Yeah.
Yes, I was like, sucked up. No.
This is not Ghosts panel, so we don't use that term on here.
That's exactly what I was just thinking of, was ghosts.
But I'm gonna be honest, and I kind of like your idea, Jessica, because what I was gonna say is I remember the first time watching it when he reminded her, "Remember, you're of my blood." I was like, so she does have the Blood King's power, and we're gonna see her use the Blood King power, and then be totally disappointed that was not the reason he reminded her of that in the end.
Yeah, that would have been so much cooler if she had been able to. If she'd been able to write it like he did,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Or like rewrite like history or something, like do something. And I understand like that kind of probably would have taken away from can't remember his name all of a sudden. Wolfman's
Dyson.
Dyson.
I wanted to say Dominic. That was not right. Dyson's storyline, where like they kind of Dyson and Mark, and they're getting rid of the light and dark, and that's what Trick's blood did, was to create that divide. But like, I still think it would have been cool to see her use the Blood King stuff. Like, I thought they could have they could have explained it by saying like, well, now that Trick's dead, she inherits it now that Trick is dead, and so that makes sense why it's in his will.
Yeah,
we may return to that idea. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it would have been a really cool thing if they had shown at some point, when she decided to go join her father and she was trying to defeat him by herself and all that stuff. If at some point, like when she's defeating him, you saw a flashback of her writing in her blood something that like would have really turned the tide, that would have been just so cool.
I wonder if that opens up an opportunity for season 6. Like, I feel like they were trying to cut this down, and like the whole thing about Trick using his ability is that it's not finite. Like, it's going to turn into something else. So if she did that, then it's like, oh, now we have this doorway for this other season that's never going to happen. And
well, they kind of did that
as
anyway.
A writer,
though.
I know how readers and fans can be. They'll come back like, where's the next season? And she used the blood, so that's an opening. I mean, we all have openings for another season, but I feel like as a writer, like, how can we do this where it's not like leaving a huge door open?
All I know is I'm gonna write a fan fiction story about Otis the farting unicorn. That's what
That was great. Yeah, that was great. Well, I wanted to say we have a few other people. Renita, who is one of our longtime participants. Hello.
Hey.
And then we have Alicia. So hello to you as well.
Hey.
Thank you. Now, so some of what you're saying, we're going to go back to at a later point, but and a few of you kind of made reference to what my next question is about, but you may have some other things that you could say as well. And was that because you talked about the Morrigan and wishing you had known more about her, like what ended up happening to her ultimately? But was there something that you felt was left unresolved? And I think we've covered the Morrigan pretty well. So unless you have something really fabulous to answer or to add to that, you may want to see if there was something else that you felt as though was not resolved by the end of the series. And Julie, you get to go first this time.
Oh, I can't really think of anything that was not resolved. The Morrigan was one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And then I thought it was really weird that at the reading of his will, he just gives his granddaughter his gratitude. That felt a little unresolved. Like what he had, almost like a museum amount of stuff down in his basement, in his lair. And I kind of wondered what's going to happen to all this really powerful relics. I guess Dyson is going to take care of them, but it just seems like a very dangerous thing to have lying around.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Especially since, there are dark fae hanging out in the bar too,
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially now. Jessica,
Yeah.
what about you? Did you find something
There are two things.
Okay.
Lauren's cure, that whole thing. I felt like there should have been way more discussion about that, and Lauren should have put like in a box somewhere, because there are fae who can literally take her life without touching her, right? So she's walking around like, oh, no one's gonna touch me because I have this cure. Like, actually, you should be the number one enemy of all fae right now, because you can do this crazy, like you can take away their abilities, right? So I would have loved to see a lot more happening, but of course, maybe if they had another season, we would have saw something of that. You took one of the most powerful dark fae and made her human, and like we're just cool with that. Oh, okay, like she's just chilling at home, drinking beer, and nothing's like
that's a good point, because she'd be public enemy number one.
Yeah, like I think
kind
even
of
the
hinted
would
at that, like that first episode where they kind of reveal what she did, like, oh, you need to watch out and yada yada yada, and then never did anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then also, I would have loved to see a conversation about Bo and Mark. Like just for my humor of it, like I would have loved to see someone bring that up. Like, so by the way,
but Tamsin was the only one who knew, and she said she would
tell. It just for humor, for my sake, I think it would have been funny for someone to like slip up and oops, So
that would have been embarrassing for me. Like I would have felt embarrassed for the characters, and I would have been like, "Oh, this is painful. Oh, this is."
It was already just so icky.
Yeah, it was the big ick moment. There was no people eating necessarily this time, so my big ick moment was Mark.
Well, now Renita says that Lauren should really have gone into Witzig. Yeah, that's a good point. Or whatever the equivalent is of there, right? So, yeah, within the show. Kevin.
Well, I wouldn't say, as we've touched on the different topics, it's really unresolved. I would have been very interested in spending more time with Acacia, Linda Hamilton's character.
Yeah.
I think that could have made for some really interesting story bits if they had had some time to go there, but it wasn't like it was unresolved. So I don't really have anything else to add that hasn't already been touched on.
Okay. Marks?
I mean, gosh, yeah, I think the Morrigan, we should have seen her, something else about her with that illness would have been nice. Otherwise, maybe a little bit more about what, Kinsey's doing besides off taking care of the kid. I don't know. I guess she's chilling in Spain. Um, but I was going to comment earlier about how Lauren and stuff about how basically, I think the most dangerous, the red shirt job in this show, at least this season, was being a nurse. Every nurse was getting killed off left and right.
All of her assistants were dead.
All of her assistants, even in the mental hospital, that nurse was like, "Hey, it's your first day. Be careful. Oh, you're dead."
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, we were watching it, and Mark's is like, and another one bites the dust.
Whoops! There goes nurse number 5.
But yeah, otherwise, I think they did a pretty good job of resolving most stuff, or giving some kind of ending to everything. Even with Mark and Vex showing some possibilities there. Yeah. I guess that's about it. I'm off here writing my short story about how Bruce saves Otis, the farting unicorn, and go on an adventure. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I think that would be fun. Yeah.
I expect it by Dragon Con. Just forewarning, I'm going to be asking for it.
That's right. She's going to be hunting you down and saying, "Where is that darn thing?"
Where's the copy?
Yeah. Sarah Rose, what about you?
At first I was like, is there anything other than the Morgan? But yes, Persephone.
Wow.
They can do a lot. Like they kind of had her be important at the beginning, and they had this who doesn't know, anybody who knows something about mythology knows who Persephone is. But they had her show up once with the painting, and then we never saw her again, and they had this huge mystery thing with the candle, and let my family know, and again that just kind of felt a little bit they were planning on doing more with her character, and maybe is she actually a ally of Bo? I was thinking, is she actually an ally of Bo, or is she just a secret weapon for Jack? And is she gonna come back into his grand scheme? And we just other than when she was a bird, we didn't see her again.
You're right. I completely forgot about her.
Yeah. And I really like the actress that played her, and I thought they did a really good job. I was excited to see her because I did forget that she was in this season up until because she's they just didn't do enough with her. But I was excited to see her, and in the end we didn't get any resolution with that character.
Well, she was set free so she could go do whatever she wanted. That was what Bo told her was, go do whatever you feel.
Part of which was making out with Bo.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to make out with Bo in this series? Let's be honest. Everybody does.
Yeah, it's probably true. Now, when we discussed
maybe
the end of the show at Con on a fan panel, there was a lot of discussion about things that we didn't like, and so Kevin even had to try to rein people back in, and that was what can we focus? Can we be more positive? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because my next question is I would like for you just to give what was your overall impression of the season as a whole, since it was a final season, since it was kind of controversial, but with the stipulation, if you say something critical, you need to also add something good. Now, if you don't have anything that you want to add that's critical, that where you say, well, I really didn't like that they did this, and it can be a general thing. It doesn't have to be a specific, but if you're going to say something not nice, you need to counter it with something nice too. How about that? And Jessica, you get to go first.
Oh, the pressure.
Nervous pressure. Should I start singing now? No, I'm sure.
I think overall, just kind of knowing the stipulations the writers were under, I think they did a good job of wrapping everything up. There wasn't a lot of loose ends. Like we all struggled to find a story or a part that didn't seem like it was
Right.
finished. And
Yeah.
for me as a viewer, that is one of the, because even the season, there's shows that you watch and they've had all of the seasons and you still walk away like, but I have so many things that haven't been finished, right? They gave us that, right? I, for one, I love that Kenzie goes away. I love that Kenzie gets to have a human life adjacent to the Fae. She's taken care of by Hale and all the money, and you know what I mean. I do really enjoy that for Kenzie because, and just like with Dyson, like they both get a Bo is a lot. Okay, she is a lot. So I really did enjoy like these characters around her finding peace and like their own little bubbles. Yeah, we can all say like, yeah, it was rushed, but to me, I think they did with the time that they had, knowing like, okay, this is it. I think it was a really solid wrap up. You know, I would have loved to see, like I said, some more repercussions for Lauren and her cure, but outside of that, yeah, I think it was a solid final season.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, for me, and I've talked about this now multiple times, this show is always, to me, the characters were much more important than the stories. No disrespect to the stories, but this is the, some shows I love because it's a combination of those or whatever. But this one was really about the characters. I wanted to see them spend time together and deal with things big and small. So even putting aside some of the plot things that might have been up or down in the final season, I greatly just enjoyed getting to spend more time with characters. The fact that Kenzie died at the end of season 4 and we had her back right at the beginning of season 5 was wonderful. I mean, that was great to see. The fact that she then disappeared, or not disappeared, or wasn't involved for, 10 episodes or more, and we only got her for the last few, was just, as this Kenzie lover here, was just disappointing. But again, Ksenia going out and doing what she wanted to do. That happens with actors and shows. But the Bo and Kenzie stuff was such a cornerstone. To not have that for most of the last season just made things odd. So, but I still loved seeing, all of them together, getting a chance to do things, teaming up, Scooby Gang having to come together to get them through some stuff, losing some characters. It's still very enjoyable to be able to spend more time with these folks. I mean, the last season may not have been my favorite, but that's why we all pick favorites when you watch a show. Doesn't mean you don't enjoy it as much.
Right. And Renita agrees with you. Marks.
Yeah, this wasn't my favorite season, for many of the reasons we talked about before, but they were, as some of you already alluded, I think it was tough because without Kenzie, it was such a crucial element. It really was hard to recapture that. Like, I felt like the whole group's dynamic was a little messy at first as they're trying to figure out how to work it all without Kenzie there.
Yeah, like who to give the best lines to. Anyway.
Yeah, I think they tried to do that. Tamsin.
Yeah, they were trying to turn
bit.
Tamsin into Kenzie.
Yeah. But it's different. Like, it's every time Kenzie's in the scene, just how she does it, everything's just so different. The energy she has. And then also being rushed to end it. So they had a lot of stuff against them in that. And then switching, I think there's a new showrunner, right? So there's always a transitional period there of trying to get everything. But they did wrap things up quite well in general, especially that final, I think it was the final scene, right, in the bar. I don't think they had anything after that. I think they did a great job of that final scene tying together in the beginning of the show in general. And that was a very satisfying way to end it. Was still promising potential future stuff and future generations. You never know, either through books or something else. Potentially, you could always do something. But yet still wrap things up really well. And we don't get that in a lot of shows. So they did a great job doing that. So. Okay.
Sarah Rose.
So, I mean, I do think that they did. I mean, I was not one of these people who was totally sad to see Kenzie go. Like, to be honest, I thought that allowed her Bo's relationships with other people to become more of a storyline because you didn't have that like bonding thing that needed to be maintained if Kenzie was there. The Kenzie Bo bond needed to be maintained in the storyline. By giving Kenzie a way to leave, that made sense for her character. Um, that was great. I'm gonna be honest. My biggest critical point is how they reintroduced Kenzie. Um, I as I said, like when she showed up, um, like other than the fact that obviously I've been watching this for months now, see the series for months now, I would not have recognized her. Like she didn't look like Kenzie. Obviously, she acted like Kenzie. She has that down pat. But we all of a sudden we see this blonde gal in like this like
Designer clothes and
designer clothes. Yeah, exactly. Like it didn't fit her aesthetic, and I think her aesthetic is such a big part of her character, whether we've seen her in like full glam or in like emo rocker chick mode or some other mode. Like her aesthetic was a big part of it, and like it just didn't fit for me. So like that's gonna be like my biggest like complaint. um as far as the season goes, other than it was rushed. That's not a fault of the writers in this case, because they had no choice. It was either we don't get an ending or we get a rushed ending.
yeah.
So in that in that aspect, I agree. You know, I liked how we got to see more of the other characters have storylines with Bo and without Bo. Um, I'm gonna be honest, I did not really like Dyson's love story thing. Just because I felt like it just kind of was there to like give Dyson somebody else to care about, like other than Bo. But in general, like I liked how we got to see other people. Kinsey was such a big part of the show, and her character, like it was bigger than life. So she just automatically took up like a lot of like that brain space. So I thought by having her leave for a while, we got to see more people, and that I liked. If that makes sense.
See, her fashion change to me is like Gandalf when he got resurrected, like the Gandalf the Grey, Gandalf the White. So she's like Kinsey the Black, Kinsey the White.
Kind of allude to it in the last season. I noticed they put some pink in her hair.
Oh yeah.
Like and like they had her like wearing like some like different tops and bottoms, like a little bit more her original aesthetic. So
I thought it was like because of the fact that she died, she lost the love of her life. Like I would, I mean, I think going through what everything that she went through, my fashion would change too. I don't know, like I'm gonna, you know what I mean. Things
but
about
then
me would
you might
change.
see the personality also change though. Like she was still
But it
over the
did.
top. Her personality was still over the top. So I just didn't feel like they meshed anymore. Like her personality and her clothes, and I'd pay attention to that
I
stuff.
think we probably have to go to a whole separate panel about Kenzie at some point.
Yeah.
Kevin's on that one. Okay.
I'd like it noted. I was not the one who floated that idea.
And we have recorded proof.
That's what we need, pictures of her different outfits, and we all vote on the favorite look, and yeah, it'd be great.
I could do it. I absolutely could do it. You could partner with the costuming track and
you
like
go.
have the many looks of Kenzie.
And, Renita said she'll be there. Okay, Renita, we'll keep you that in mind and hold you to it. All right, Julie, what you got for us?
Well, this was my least favorite season for just so many reasons.
Yes, your husband warned me of that before tonight. I told him that was okay. It wasn't, a lot of people felt the same way, but go ahead.
I really liked the show, but I just thought this season was bad for a lot of reasons. One thing that bugged me was, and Marks and I talked about this, that without Kinsey there, everybody in Bo's life wants to sleep with her, and I feel like that they've done this balancing act for the previous seasons fairly well, but I feel like this season it seemed like Bo was really kind of cruel. She was sleeping with each of them and leading them on and hurting their and breaking their hearts, and it made Bo seem really selfish and insensitive. And
I do agree with you when it comes to Tamsin, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Tamsin was just one. I feel like there was this scene at the end of one of the episodes, I can't remember which one, where they're all on the couch and Bo's kind of laying across them, and it's just kind of like she's really being so unfair to all of them because she keeps leading them on, each of them, and I feel like they, for whatever reason, they lost that balance this season that they had in the previous seasons, that it didn't seem like she was being as selfish and cruel in the previous seasons, but for this season it seemed like they just kind of lost that balance.
Well, my impression of that was not only in the case of Tamsin, and I wouldn't call her being selfish or cruel, but it seemed out of character for her to have accepted her birthday gift and then to expect that there was no other, it just seemed out of character for her.
That's what I mean. She seemed out of character this season. They made her seem more callous and
yeah, probably the writers weren't trying to make her cruel, but just like she was being a little bit more selfish, or a little bit more like, they're okay. They say they don't care if I sleep with this person and stuff, but that's and they've always read that balance, right? But this season, because everything was out of whack, I think that's what,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that also they were trying to appease like the Bo Tamsin shippers. Okay. Like, because they had teased it a few times. We saw them kiss a couple of times, but we never actually saw them try to be a couple. And like, I think that I'm one of them. I liked the idea of Bo and Tamsin together. So like, they felt like they were addressing it with that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's in character for Bo beyond the fact that like Bo has been progressively becoming darker, more evil, to use the ending, like she's both evil and good. And so I think that might have helped play into that a little bit more, made her being evil a little bit more believable.
Yeah.
But
now, if this had been True Blood, Dyson and Lauren were hooked up.
You never know.
Team Eric. That's all I'm gonna say. Team Eric.
Well, this was a comment that Renita made earlier, and I didn't see it until after I had already moved on to a different question. So I thought I'm going to work it in at the end of this one. But that she was saying that she was hoping to see Kenzie one last time at the end, and was expecting her to be the one to introduce the kid to the rest of the family. So
yeah, it's weird that she wasn't there.
I think the reason they did that is because Kenzie, they were trying to bring in, I cannot remember the kid's name, for
Mark?
Dagny. They were trying to like do that Bo parallel where she like goes into the bar and she doesn't know anybody, and she doesn't but instead like they were trying to do the thing where you can sign my book, and she already knew what the book was,
right,
and like,
yes,
oh, there's the wolf. So I think they were trying to use that as a parallel, and that's the reason Kenzie wasn't there. I think that it would have made sense like at the end of all that for Kenzie to like pop up and be like, so where's my drink, Wolfman, or something like that. Like, I think that would have been really cool. But I think the reason she didn't bring the kid in was because they were trying to like make us wonder, oh, did she actually become a lost girl? And then we slowly find out, no.
Absolutely not. She knew what was going on. Oh, and yeah, okay. I saw another comment that I realized I already mentioned. So we're down to our last couple of questions. So the last one, I wanted just a very quick response is, and you can, so just one thing. You don't even have to really explain it, but what aspect of the show, the overall show, all 5 seasons, did you most enjoy? What part of it, what was the core thing for you that you most enjoyed about it? And Kevin, you're first.
I know what you're going to say.
I was going to say, am I being punked? I mean, does anybody not know?
Let's say it all together now.
it's obviously it's the Bo and Kenzie relationship. That sisterly relationship is such a foundation for me. Kenzie is one of all the shows I've watched over all the years, one of my all-time favorite characters. And the actress Ksenia is just a total sweetheart. I got stories to share on that. So
that'll be during the Kenzie panel, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll save it for then. Otherwise, mic drop, Bo and Kenzie.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Marks.
Yeah, I mean, I like their Fae twist on supernatural and stuff that they would do with myth, but it's the characters are the anchor, and it's just all about the found. I'll broaden it a little bit and say the found family aspect of it that really hammered home at the end with all of them at the bar and stuff. That's what kept me watching. And
okay, that was definitely an important aspect of the show, and I think it had a huge impact on its audience for that reason. Sarah Rose.
For me, it was the story of Bo finding herself, okay, and her what she is, like, as she found her family and stuff like that. But she picked those up along the way. She found out who she was. She found out what she wanted to be, became a lot more confident in herself and who she is, and learn to accept all aspects of herself.
That's the tough part.
And so, I think that was my favorite part of the overarching story.
Julie.
I have to agree that it's the family. It seems like, and Bo and Kenzie as sisters really are kind of at the heart of the family. But just the idea of sometimes family, like Trick, are blood, but sometimes family isn't always blood.
Right.
And so to me, that's kind of at the heart of the show.
Okay. And Jessica.
I liked Bo's dance between light and dark, like watching her balance and find her place, I think to me was the best. And also just the hate that I had for Lauren, as much as I hate that character. I love to hate her. So
I love watching her.
I love you so much.
And we found a family. We found a community.
Now, this is what Renita says, is that she loved the twist on classic characters like werewolves and sirens, and also just loved the characters and their struggles together. So yeah, I agree. It was a nice juxtaposition of both of those things. I think they managed to pull off. Now, for my last question, I usually ask about the finale, but we've been talking about it as a the finale is built into the fact that this is the final season period. It's not just a season finale. Oh, and here Renita says she also had that Jessica, you and I equal hate. And
you're part of the family. You're part of the community.
That's right. You've built your own community.
Anybody but Lauren, not Lauren.
But now, if it had been up to you, how would you have ended the series? Or what would a spin-off or a continuation have looked like if it was up to you? If you had been in charge? Marks, you go first.
Oh man. Gosh.
Pressure.
Uh,
I mean, we're talking about Bruce and Otis, but no. I guess, the ending, I wouldn't, maybe, I guess I could see Trick still dying, maybe not quite like that. I don't know. That's a tough question. If I was going to do a spin-off, let's just say that out of what happened, I might see a spin-off perhaps with something with Vex. Vex and Mark break up, and Vex decides he needs to get a fresh start somewhere else and goes to a different colony in LA or something. And
I can so see
goes on an
Vex in
adventure.
LA.
Yeah, then he runs into Spike. No, I'm sorry. That's probably not.
That's right. Now you got
And Eric. No.
okay.
And then they
Yeah.
always talk about how much they hate Lauren, and it's great. No.
I don't think Vex completely hated Lauren though. She
Nah,
did. She
he
did
didn't.
reattach his hand. So
Yeah, he didn't.
And saved his vocal cords.
that's right, and that too. That's no small
Yeah,
feat. I
yeah.
thought, boy, he recovered really quickly from one.
Didn't he? Yes.
Those Faye
And,
genetics.
Sarah Rose, what about you?
Well, as much as I hate Trick dying, because I do. Like, I mean, I cried. I didn't cry as much as when Hale died. Okay. That one just like was immediate tears. Like Trick, I knew it was coming and I like felt it build up, and I was actually watching it. My mom was in the next room and she's like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like,
Well, with
But-
Hale, it was a shock.
it was a
just-
shock. And even though I knew it was coming, it was still like that.
I feel like you were crying, and just between sobs, you're like, "Why couldn't it have been Lauren?"
Exactly. Why couldn't Lauren? Lauren would have made sense. Exactly. Why couldn't Lauren die? Jack, there was your option. I mean, they even made Lauren Faye for a while. There you go. And you could have had a super powered baby with Lauren. Anyway, but if I had to choose how it would have ended, I would have chosen to probably still to have Trick die. I probably would have chosen to have Bo be more involved with her sister's life. Like, not like suddenly have her like, we meet in the bar. like
Probably you're a teenager, but they did say that she was that her development was very quick.
It was
Right.
The way that
accelerated.
Samson's had been, so we really don't have a good idea
Gauge
of how much
how
time
long
it
it-
actually passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
It wasn't much. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. My as far as what I would do if I were to continue it or have a spin-off series or something like that, yeah, I mean the obvious one would be to go with like Bo's sister, but I would actually really love to see them do more with like the gods. Like I think that that has like a whole bunch of implications and kind of go more into like Bo's roots as a goddess. I mean, because she's at least a demigod, if she's not a god or goddess. But you know, I think that's probably where I would have gone to have her explore that side of her and like um and learn about that part of like the Fae magical community thing.
Okay.
So I think that's where I would have gone with it.
Okay.
Vex though going to LA would have been really
Yeah, I mean
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. We're gonna beat that.
that's
Okay.
a hard one to top. Yeah.
Okay, Julie.
If I were to rewrite the ending, I would have Trick still alive, Bo and Dyson would be together. And I agree that Bo would have been in her sister's life, and because she promised Tamsin she'd keep her safe, and then she just kind of passed her along. That didn't sit well with
She's
me.
a human. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a shadow thief, but what does that have to do with protecting anybody?
Yeah, that didn't sit well with me.
But Kenzie had the horseshoe.
Yeah,
That was
That's
taped
true.
together, so who
but
knows
it
if
had
it would
been
have worked.
broken already. So
Yeah. Well, and wasn't there tape on it when they flashed to it? I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
they had
sure.
taped it together. Like I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
yeah, we're gonna have to go back and see that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I would actually be kind of interested in, might be interested to have a prequel with the Blood King and Dyson together and see some of their adventures that they had for all those centuries.
Okay. All right. Jessica.
I would have kept Tamsin alive. I'm saying Tamlin like Sarah. Where else was I?
I haven't even read ACOTAR recently, and I'm still saying Tamlin. Anyway.
No, I would have found some magical way to keep, her alive and let her raise her own child and be there with Bo and everybody. As much as I love Kenzie going away, I would have loved to see Kenzie kind of like running the Dow with Dyson, like hand in hand. I feel like
That's a
that
good
would
idea.
be
I actually
hilarious.
think it would have made sense to have Kenzie be like inherit the Dow.
Yeah, 'cause
Like
she
instead of
learned so much about basically how to run it from Trick. Like she was always in there and like in his business, and she talked to the bird about the egg, and she dealt with the mole people, and she found the I can't remember what the little guy was trying to take from him, but the charm or
it was a coin, the
the
lucky
coin. So
coin.
she was so involved with the goings on at the Doll. I would have loved to see like, and if I was to write an off or a spinoff, it would be Kenzie and Dyson running the Dow, and like Kenzie and Bo kind of reprising their doings and like going around and solving, and also just taking in Lost Fae and like whipping them into shape. Like I would love like a Kenzie training sequence with these Lost Fae where she's the one telling, I don't know, more of Kenzie, but I just honestly wanted to see or would love to see more of Kenzie and Dyson's relationship. Just
Yes, aren't they
post
great?
all of this chaos because they had such a great friendship to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do like that. And the other thing, if he would have given Kenzie the doll, it would have given her like finally like a real job. Like
Yeah.
something like she wasn't being a big scam. Like she had a real job.
And
So-
she would belong there outside of being Bo's human. You know what I mean? Like that was one of the things for her, like wanting to belong. Like if you're running the Dow, like you belong. Like people have to check in with you. So Kenzie
Yeah.
would have loved that, I think.
Bruce could
Yeah.
be the bouncer. That'd be great.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's
That would have been
perfect.
funny. Yeah, and so Renita agrees and says that she loves the idea of Kenzie running the doll. So, okay, Kevin.
Well, for me, I'll just add on one scene after the scene of the doll, and retcon not burning down the crack shack. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
At the, at the end, just having Kenzie and Bo jumping on the couch, tub of popcorn, some trashy reality TV on, and them just arguing over something stupid on there as we fade to black.
I like
Wow.
that.
Oh, that would have been a nice ending. Yeah.
Well, would you have been? You would have been on board for a Kenzie spinoff too, though.
Oh,
but you
hell
would
yeah.
rather have had the two of them together. So that would have been if the series had gone on.
Oh, yeah. To quote Kenzie, hell to the yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Marks.
What? I already said Vix.
Oh, you are. That's right.
Yep.
You got to go first. So okay.
Yep.
Well, here I am, lost track of what number was what.
No.
But I think that the show itself had such a huge impact. I mean, the fact that we had Lost Girl was due to the fact that we ever had Buffy. I think the fact that we got Wynonna Earp was due to the fact that we had Lost Girl. So, I mean, I think that there's a direct through line, from those, and it's not necessarily just because they, the two shows that I mentioned last, that they shared some of the same writers and showrunners and creators and such. But in any
Same
case, I
fans.
think, what's that?
The same fans.
Yeah, well, that too. But I think,
You might have had
and yet the shows
character named after him.
but the shows themselves were very different. So,
Mhm.
but I was thinking the other day, I thought, well, if I ever get Anna and Melanie at con at the same time, I have a really good idea for a panel I would like to do with the two of them, but I digress. Anyway, I think that, the huge impact that the show had on on genre television in general, but certainly for, the ones in this category in my area in urban fantasy has been huge. And we had cast members from Lost Girl 4 different times at con, and 2 of those times were like complete cast. I mean, everybody was there pretty much. So I mean, we were very fortunate, and I am just forever grateful that it existed for partly for that reason too, that they wanted to come, that they did come. And I don't know if any of them will ever see this, but I thank them forever. So in any case, I want to thank you guys, and you guys have been great. I hope you've had a good time. A few of you have been here for every single one of these panels that we did. I want to thank here this is what Renita has to say based on something I just said. Bo versus Winona.
Ooh.
Sort of, but not quite. That wasn't what I was getting at. But that would be kind of an interesting to see the comparisons there. Compare and contrast. Write an essay. So, I wouldn't make my panelists do that, so that's okay. But I do appreciate that people that came in and hung out with us for every one of these, even if you watched later and didn't get to watch while we were live. And for those of you who interact with us, we especially appreciate you. Thank you very much. And, this is the last one that we will do covering a show prior to Dragon Con because, well, I have a lot to do to get ready for Dragon Con. So that is what is going to be consuming a lot of my time. But we will come back with something else next year. I'm not quite sure what it will be, but after Dragon Con, we'll be covering something else. I will be conferring with people to get some ideas. Any of you have any ideas, you're welcome to send me a message at the Facebook page, the Track Facebook page, or you can reach me at the Track email, which is urbanfantasy@dragoncon.org. So go for it if you have any kind of suggestions or comments. Thank you again. You guys have been wonderful. I appreciate you so much. And again, thanks to our viewers. And we will be back at some point in probably October with something. So thanks very much, everyone. And we will say good night. Good
Take
night,
care, all.
all.
Night.
Bye.